Welcome to Choosing to Be, your home for intimate conversations on transformation. This is Amanda Wirtz Rosolowski, and I'm delighted to share this time with you. We are back, and you are back here investing in yourself. And I love that. You might be listening to me, but at the end of the day, this is your investment. And as I always say, go where you grow. And if it's here with me, that's fantastic. Life has really inspired today's topic, what people really need from you. Spoiler alert, this is also what you really need from them. Now, if you listened last week to You Are the Authority, you might say, Amanda, how do you know what I need? Well, there's some basic, fundamental human needs, and this one is so easy to overlook and yet so life-changing. So let's put it under the metaphorical microscope, because when we become aware, we can interrupt our unconscious patterns and then find a new and better way to live. And that's what we're here to do, especially now where the world is suffering from incredible conflict and immense dehumanization. We cannot change others, but we can change ourselves. And in doing so, we change the world. Okay, so that's what we're going to do, and I'm excited to explore this together. Let's begin by considering the concept of roles. We're all called into various roles in life. I'll use myself as an example. Frequently, we consider this concept of role synonymous with our job, like, what's your role? I've been a university professor, a public speaker, a health researcher, a musician, a cryptologist, a business owner, a fitness instructor. In my earlier years, I was a waitress. I cleaned houses. That one was not my favorite. I babysat a lot of children. I've worn a lot of different hats, and you've probably worn a lot of different hats as well, especially if you have any length of life experience. And you're probably wearing at least one of those hats now. Now, relative to those roles, those are jobs, professions, careers. And in these roles, we provide a service or deliver a product. And if we're getting paid to do it, that means we're doing a good enough job and someone wants what we have. They want what we're doing. They need it. There is a market demand, and we are fulfilling this role. But we are not inherently these roles. Oh, but we really identify with them, don't we? I'm an engineer. I'm a customer service representative. I'm a nurse. I'm a cashier. I'm a waiter. I'm a fill in the blank. You can do a lot of incredible things within your role, but you are not your role. And there is something that people need far beyond the service or product you deliver. But before we go there, let's talk about other roles we are called into. Maybe you're married, you're a spouse, a partner, a friend, you're a parent, a colleague, a mentor, maybe you're a mentee, a volunteer, a student, neighbor. Think of all these different roles. We are in relationship with so many people. And even in those roles, we are able to offer various levels of support. And for those of us who are parents, feel this very viscerally at times. Children in particular need a great deal from us. Guidance, instruction. They need boundaries, routines, and so much more. But we are also not inherently these roles either. In fact, we can be called in and out of these roles. They shift throughout our lives, even in these relationships. There is something that people, and I mean everyone, regardless of race, religion, culture, socioeconomic demographic, where you live in the world, there is something that people need fundamentally. And this is associated with some very important and basic human needs. There's a word I want to offer here. It's a way of being in any setting, in any role, that is incredibly healing and very powerful. It reduces anxiety. It can alleviate depression. It makes us more effective. It promotes deeper connection. It fosters healthier relationships. This all happens for you and the other person. So, what do people really need from one another? People need a witness. Now, I'm going to unpack this word. But before I go there, sometimes people do need a product. They need a service. They need direction. They need instruction. But under all of that, they always need a witness. Now, Merriam-Webster in the dictionary identifies this word witness as one who's asked to be present at a transaction so as to be able to testify to its having taken place. So somebody who's there to be present to say, yeah, that happened. Second definition, one who has personal knowledge of something. So let's add in somebody who's deeply aware of something, who is present. To be a witness is to be present to someone's unfolding, whether that is celebrating something, grieving the loss of someone, something, or even a dream. Maybe someone's swimming in a sea of uncertainty or experiencing a suffocating degree of monotony. In true presence, we are not judging. Oh, but we do this so easily in our minds. Somebody begins to share something, and the inner chatter begins. Oh, yeah, they did it like this, and that's how that worked out. And here's what I think they should do next. So all of the analysis begins. We lose our presence. We're gone. We are gone like a puff of smoke in our thoughts, judging what they're saying. We're not present anymore. In true presence, we are also not predicting, but we also do this. Oh, this happened. So here's what's likely to happen. I caught myself doing this the other day. Yep, here's their trajectory. This is where that's going. By the way, we're horrible predictors. And now we've lost our ability to be present. In true presence, we're also not trying to change or manipulate the state of the other person. A lot of times we're uncomfortable when somebody's really dealing with something incredibly challenging. We become uncomfortable. And so we start trying to shape shift their experience so that we could feel better. The worst is like, you shouldn't feel that way. What we're trying to say is, you shouldn't feel that way so that I don't feel uncomfortable. That's not presence. Lastly, we're not moving into comparison. If something really difficult happened, gosh, in my mind, I'm so glad that's not happening to me. Or if it's something incredible and wonderful, we're frequently broadsided by our insecurities. Well, that's not happening to me. Or wish that would happen to me. I mean, sometimes I can even read these phenomenon, or I think I can, on someone else's face when I've shared something, for better and for worse. You see them disappear. And all of a sudden, my witness is gone. By the way, I've disappeared so frequently. I still can. I can also become a witness. So we're going to talk about what then. As a witness, we are open to partnering with the other person with respect, with empathy, with acceptance on a journey to simply witness their experience of life. We can compassionately allow them to have their experience. And in the ways that we show up, we can communicate that we hear the details, that we see the details, that all of them matter to us. This is communication artistry, in my opinion. And we as a society, as a civilization, have so much to learn. And we can practice. David Osberger, who is a scholar, a theologian, an author who specializes in pastoral counseling, conflict resolution, cross-cultural communication. His work emphasizes the transformative power of listening, reconciliation, and presence in relationships. He has a quote I love. Quote, "Being heard is so close to being loved that for the average person, they're almost indistinguishable." Let me say it again. Being heard is so close to being loved that for the average person, they are almost indistinguishable. I'm imagining David isn't referring to simply hearing. He's referencing the full hearing, the full seeing, the full allowing, the full acknowledging, witnessing experience that we're talking about here. The most transformative moments or relationships, because relationships are simply a string of moments I have ever had, whether it was with a stranger in some seemingly random 10-minute encounter or a friendship that bloomed over the course of a decade. The ones that have made the biggest difference were those in which this witnessing took place. Sometimes it was me. Sometimes it was them. Sometimes it was both. This allowing curiosity that broadcasts compassion, interest, acceptance. This is like emotional gold. I've spoken to tens of thousands of people around the world, and I've been struck by the uncanny pattern that emerged every time I got off stage. People would line up, not to tell me how awesome I was, although I got my fair share of that. I got people who also told me they didn't like my outfit, the way I talked. But people would line up to tell me their stories, not just a few, hundreds of stories, incredible stories, horrible stories, and all of them very personal. I used to think that it was because they wanted or needed to share their story. But when I look at the broader truth, they were inviting me to be a witness. They wanted a witness to their experience and ultimately who they are now as a result. And people still tell me a lot, but this isn't unique to me. People are making a request, a call for witnesses all over the place. Sometimes these invitations are just seconds. It could be a glance, a few words. Sometimes they're lengthy conversations. In some ways, we are absolutely starved for this quality of interaction. And we're suffering. We're becoming more dehumanized. I don't need to tell you all the statistics. Suicide is up by over 30%. Depression is skyrocketing. According to a recent survey, 52% of Americans, over half, report feeling lonely. Listen to this one. 47, almost half of Americans report their relationships with others are not meaningful. So it's not that we're not connecting with people. Gosh, we're connecting with people all over the place, but these relationships are not meaningful. 58% of Americans report that they sometimes or always feel like no one knows them well. Studies all seem to agree that young people are lonelier than the elderly and middle-aged people. Young people are the loneliest. In fact, one study revealed that 80% of people under the age of 18 are lonely sometimes. At your work, think about the interactions you have, clients, customers, colleagues. Life is moving through them, and sometimes with great velocity. Notice how, when, and to what degree you're invited to be a witness. Do not diminish your capacity and the incredible difference you can make in someone's life. Notice it. At home, notice how your family members, your roommates, they're also inviting you. They want to share. They want to be seen. They want to be heard. And oh my gosh, so do you. In community, the gym, the grocery store, the pharmacy, and your hobby places, you are also being called. And you're calling people too. Now, you can trust yourself to know when you're being called. Just because someone wants to open up does not mean they get the emotional red carpet. I'm all for boundaries. I'm most certainly not suggesting that you roll that out for everyone all the time. That sounds exhausting. And like a new board game called The Ultimate Drama Dump. Don't play that. Have your boundaries. Trust your senses. And when life calls you, be ready. We can stop rushing. We've got to do it consciously, though. I know I do. We got to stop judging, stop predicting, stop manipulating, stop comparing. Sometimes we think, especially in the self-development world, we've got to add more things. Sometimes we need to take things away, like rushing, judging, predicting, manipulating, comparing. It's subtle. It's corrosive. There's no real connection here. And where there is no real connection, there is no real relationship. Let's go back to the stats. How does that show up? Depression, suicide, isolation, loneliness. We sometimes think about dehumanization, which is a word we hear a lot right now, as something that's happening to us. But we are also creating this. I have this personal mantra that I refuse to complain about something unless I'm willing to do something about it. We can do something about it. We can create something different. So let's flip it around. Let's create some space for others. Let's express empathy, offer acceptance, reside in a state of what I call unhurried compassion. There are a lot of skills here we can develop and refine way too much to talk about on this podcast. Active listening, eye contact. There's so much in our gaze, in our nonverbal communication, validation, asking thoughtful questions. Oh my gosh. Questions has got to be a podcast. Respectful silence, authenticity, encouraging autonomy, which looks like we're not offering solutions. We're offering support and so much more. Do some experiments. There's no getting it right. And the only way to master anything is through consistent practice. Learn, practice, learn, practice, rinse, repeat. And boy, will life give you opportunities to practice. Your children, your roommates, your colleagues, strangers. I had a personal phone conversation this week with a dear friend, Dan Contreras, a man who simply cannot be summarized in a sentence. This man is a powerhouse. Dan is the national commander for disabled American veterans. It's a big role, and he has invested the entirety of his being in supporting their mission, supporting and transforming the lives of over 1 million veterans and their families a year. He's at the helm. His brilliance, his creativity, his strategy has made a ginormous impact. It was fun to catch up on the phone. We talked about a lot of things, shared many aspects of our life, and we started talking about an upcoming event. At some point, he shared his 2 hallmark commitments when it comes to engaging at an event. He said in a pretty dogged way, and you could hear it in his voice, that he's really committed about 2 things: power mingling and being the last man in the room. Now, I know Dan, not everything about him, not even close, but his essential position at any time with any person is, I'm here for you. I see you. I hear you. Your life is important. You are important. And as I was writing this podcast, or rather, it was writing me because that's usually how it goes, Dan's position became very clear. Power mingling, being the last man in the room. That's a declaration to make space and time to be a compassionate witness for everyone. Ironically, his campaign slogan for the year is Dan Contreras, a voice for you. What an incredible example. I think that's one of the million things that makes Dan really effective and just honestly an incredible person to be with. I know my life is so much better for it. You want to be a dynamo, a leader in your industry? Choose to be a witness. You want to be an outstanding friend? Choose to be a witness. You want to create and sustain an incredible partnership? Choose to be a witness. You want your children to thrive? Yes. Give them instruction, give them direction, give them boundaries, all the things. But under it all, be a witness to their unfolding. When we are a witness, we allow people to experience the truth of their life while having someone compassionately care and reflect their reality. That is so powerful. It's the foundation, I believe, for healing and ultimately for movement. Because check this out, once we feel seen and heard, it is so much easier to take our next steps, isn't it? This is not only true for other people, this is true for ourselves. And here's the next level: practice being a witness to yourself. Because if you don't have you, no one has you. And you have my money back guarantee that there's a lot of life, for better and for worse. I mean, in the end, I think it's all good, but difficult and exquisitely wonderful things. There's a lot of life that has and will move through you. Be a witness to yourself. Here's the funny thing: we want people to validate us. We want people to affirm us, but we don't validate and affirm ourselves. We can say, I see you, I hear you, I notice everything that you're experiencing, and I care about every little detail. But we rush this. I mean, very few parents or even trained professionals show us, demonstrate it, or invite us into a practice of self compassion. Now, we can forgive them. Like I always say, forgive them for not being who we'd want them to be, which is someone who would have equipped us with this insight and these skills earlier. And we can forgive ourselves for not doing this earlier, for being messy, in a rush, too busy to notice or care about our own feelings. We've been uncaring. And now we can do things differently. The other day, I was met with some pretty discouraging news that potentially has a big impact on my life and my future. And I asked my husband, we practiced this to be a witness to what I was moving through. And after our daughter went to bed, he laid on the bed with me and he held my hand. And he listened with his whole being. Now, this is pretty phenomenal because he doesn't do this naturally. You might think, oh, I bet Amanda's paired up with she's a musician, some sort of real big feeler. Maybe we write each other love poems and see each other's songs. No, that's not my guy. He's the quintessential engineer, and he spends a great majority of his time in his brilliant mind. But he's learning and he's practicing and he's willing. And he was amazing. He made space for all my thoughts and feelings, even the darkest ones. He didn't change my circumstance, but in that moment and at that time, everything did change for me. Mother Teresa said, I still think the greatest suffering is being lonely, feeling unloved, or just having no one. That is the worst disease that any human being can ever experience. You know, he gave me a gift, but then he left and he went back to his office and he started cranking on the next technological innovation. I was still having my experience and my feelings. It's not like it just all went away. And this podcast was writing me. And I noticed my inclination to pick up my phone, do anything other than feel my feelings and witness my own experience. This is hilarious. I found myself reading some random newsletter sent from my daughter's school. It was totally unconscious. I wanted to avoid it. It was unconscious until it wasn't. I want to be a better witness to myself, so I put my phone down. And I spent some time appreciating everything that I was moving through, acknowledging my strength, my determination, my willingness to stay with myself. We don't just rush over the difficult parts, the challenges, the struggle. We rush through the celebration. We hurry the victory. We don't even give ourselves the opportunity frequently to feel all the good feelings that come with really doing our best. You know that old adage, never ask someone to do something you're not willing to do for yourself. I was up against that. And I want to challenge you with that as well. Once again, we are always on the bridge of choice. This process isn't a one and done, and life is going to give us so many opportunities to explore how to best be a witness to ourselves and others. David Brooks, one of my new favorite people, author of How to Know a Person, The art of seeing others deeply and being seen deeply calls this witnessing defiant humanism. Defiant humanism. And he gives us practical steps to get there. If you want more, I highly recommend this book, Defiant Humanism. You make a lot of choices. Choose that. Choose to be a witness to your suffering, to your celebrations, to everything in between, because it's all important. Your choice is the most important and powerful thing you have. And what you do, how you show up, does matter. If you've enjoyed this podcast, please share it and subscribe. If you'd like to add your 2 cents or 20 cents or $1,000,000 idea, your story, you have an idea, please send me a message. You can text me directly through Buzzsprout. I would love to hear from you. Thank you for being part of our growing community. Until next time, this is Amanda Wirtz Rosolowski, celebrating your highest and most important choice, who you are choosing to be.